Chris Christie's presidential campaign, well, it's a flop. Poll numbers at an all-time low in New Jersey, yet he's got the nerve to be blasting Bill de Blasio, who's got his own share of problems, I grant you. So the question for this governor is, shouldn't he be worrying about his own problems? Also, Donald Trump, he's given the Republican Party fits. No headline there, but he might not be the GOP's biggest worry. We're going to tell you the other issue that will keep GOP brass up at night. Then, Hillary, no surprise, is struggling. Will that get Joe Biden running? Well, what we considered a joke a couple weeks ago is looking more serious for certain folks. New calls for the VP to try to become the next president. Is that just one more thing for Clinton to worry about? Good evening. Welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Now, the de Blasio pile-on, it continues. Just minutes after New York's mayor appeared on Morning Joe this morning, the next guest was New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who unloaded on the mayor while Joe and Mika, frankly, let him off the hook, even laughing it off.
I'm just stunned, as are most people who live in this area, that this has been the safest summer in New York. No one else believes that except for the two people who were just on your set. I guarantee you this guy doesn't believe it.
Now, he wasn't done. Christie went on to slam de Blasio over crime, homelessness, you name it.
Under both Mayor Giuliani and Mayor Bloomberg, we didn't see the outward manifestation of this problem in the way you see it now. We didn't see the diminution in the quality of life like we see it now. And it's these liberal policies that this mayor ran on. I mean, I got to give him credit. He ran on it. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and now he's going to diminish the quality of life he already has.
Mika now.
And it's less safe. It's less safe in the city, but to give Mayor de Blasio credit, he's not the only one across the country is doing this, because the president has encouraged this lawlessness.
Obama's encouraging the lawlessness. So we'll get to the governor in a second. But the question is, why is Christie even talking about New York? You can understand when somebody like Giuliani slams de Blasio, and he did just that once again in a scathing op-ed in the Post on Sunday. Rudy ran the city, lives there. He can say he's got skin in the game here, although I certainly think hypocrisy reigns supreme there as well. But Christie, he's got nothing to do with New York City, so it's not his place, frankly, to stick his nose in when he should be explaining why he won't even get on the stage here for the next Republican debate. And doesn't he have enough problems of his own to worry about? His poll numbers are at record lows, his approval rating way underwater, and let's not even mention his failed presidential run, where he's struggling to even, as I mentioned, stay in the top 10. All right, I want to bring in our panel right now. Jeannie Zaino, professor of political science at Iona College, professor of campaign management at NYU, and so much more. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, biggest cheerleader of Mayor de Blasio. Brad Gersman, a political consultant, founding partner of Gotham Government Relations, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. All right. Heaven it be for me, who's piled on this mayor as well here, Dominic, okay? I've been on de Blasio for, I think, as much optics as just like terrible political gamesmanship that he's played and lost with the Governor Cuomo, that is, every time. But who is Christie to be piping in about how the city should be running its affairs with what's going on in Jersey? And who's Rudy here trying to pretend like the post 9/11 mayor was the same guy, as you said, the day before the attacks, who couldn't even get a ticket in New York City? He was that unpopular. My point is, who are these two guys piling on? And what's worse, I think they actually believe it.
Well, I'm convinced that Rudy believes what he said, and maybe he has a point, Richard. Wait. Calm down. Maybe he has a point. I'm not going to use the word knee-jerk reaction to the mayor's critics. I actually read what he wrote yesterday. And in reading it, don't look at me like I'm a Martian.
I haven't said a word.
And in reading it, I saw tough love mixed with compassion towards the homeless. Giuliani made an argument of, if it's my loved one or someone that I know, this is how I would handle it. The last thing I would do is just sit there and let them stay on the street. What's wrong with that? I don't see anything wrong with that message. Okay. And in fairness to Giuliani, and I don't think there was no reporter that questioned him and was more of a pain in the side of his neck or whatever, thorn, than I was. And I just think that they were on the streets of New York. You could see fewer homeless under Giuliani than under de Blasio.
Okay.
And Christie's a free attack.
We'll get to Christie, who's a clown, okay? But we'll get to the math in a second. Homelessness and crime under Giuliani higher than they were under this mayor, okay? And for Rudy to be talking about how that there was a relationship between the cops and the community that was so terrible under this current mayor, like it was love and kisses when he was mayor over there, again, is looking through rose-colored glasses. Listen, we can sit around this table, we do every night. You have taken up for this mayor more than Dominic and I have, all right? But for these guys to be coming out of left field with hypocrisy was just a little too much for me to take.
Well, I think it's an easy target for a Republican, especially a Republican who's seeking the White House, because de Blasio equals progressivism in a way that even Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or Hillary or Obama doesn't. So it's an easy punch for a Republican presidential candidate to make. I think you're right that they're both way out of their depths in doing so. I mean, you got Giuliani, who his relationship between police and community can be summed up with Amadou Diallo. And you can also argue that he just pushed people into homeless shelters and into jails. And Chris Christie, I think, is trying to come up with a rationale for why he was blocking New Jerseyans from coming into New York City with the bridge gate. So, yeah, they should probably pipe down, but they're playing to their base. And
yeah, and again, I agree with Andrew 100%, is from their standpoint, and what the GOP is trying to explain to everybody in this country is that, do you see the cities that are run by liberals? Do you see what they're turning into? They're turning into crime-ridden, infested, homeless, spewing all over the street. I mean, this is the picture that they are painting for everybody else. Now, in New York City, the question is whether or not, what it appears to be really is what it is. And I think the Mayor de Blasio has a major job ahead of him in trying to clear up whatever it is, the problem with the police and the problem with, some of his left-leaning friends and his own ideology, to try to manage this city the way the people want it managed. Because, at least from an optics standpoint, he's getting destroyed. And his popularity is going down.
And I think he's mismanaged certain fights. But if you listen to more of that conversation on Morning Joe this morning, Christie went on to say, the more you help a homeless person, the more you're going to encourage other homeless people to come out of the woodwork here and look for help. By the way, counter to Cardinal Dolan, hardly Mr. Bleeding Heart here, and let alone if you look at poll numbers. To me, I'll get into the media part of this in a second, but to me, it really bothered me. He should be trying to explain how nobody likes him in the polls. He should explain here why his numbers are so in the toilet in New Jersey. But for him to be giving political advice to the mayor of New York City and to all the problems he sees firsthand instead of doing his job in New Jersey, that was just, ugh.
Yeah, I have to say, I was struck by that as well, as if people are just waiting to come out and be homeless. If they're just waiting for the invitation to come out and be homeless. And my reaction to this entire thing was not that Mika and Joe had done anything wrong, but that for the governor of New Jersey, given the state that New Jersey is in, to come out and criticize another sitting public official for the state his city is in was the height of hypocrisy. Governor Christie really needs to look at the state of New Jersey. The economy is in chaos. His presidential hopes are in chaos. And for him to be coming out and criticize, I mean, I've been very critical of the mayor, but for the governor to come out and criticize him was, I think, so difficult to take. And, I also think by the same token that listening to the mayor and his wife come out and say that New York is the safest it's been in, decades and decades, it doesn't ring true. I mean, people are not stupid. That's not what people think when they sit in New York.
And de Blasio's changed his position as it relates to both homelessness being it's under control to calling it a crisis after 2 or 3 news cycles go by. It's kind of fit part and parcel.
Why do you give our governor Cuomo, a pass at attacking our mayor? And you give him a pass. So I'm not saying a lot of people give him a pass.
Come right at me.
But on the other hand, you destroy Christie. It's a neighboring state. The people visit New Jersey. They work in New York.
100% right. I'll give Cuomo a pass only because this mayor picked the fight with this governor, okay? Or whoever picked the fight first, de Blasio went directly after this governor. The governor not only has hit back, he slugged him and slugged him and slugged him again. So my point is, they had a fight with each other, and the game was on.
a Republican neighbor. That's the way
things are. And they have the same state in the mind. They have the same state.
It's the same
they got
people,
the same shared issues and whatever else. For whatever it is, de Blasio chose to be a big boy and have a fight with this governor and hasn't gone his way.
What does that do about Cuomo dropping the ball on homelessness on his part?
It's a legitimate point, and I don't think this governor's blameless. I'll tell you what else I don't think is blameless from a media standpoint. Here is another pull the curtain back on how we do things. It's always easy to dump on somebody when they're not sitting at the table with you. But to me, today, on that morning show, and I'm a big Joe Scarborough fan in terms of how that show, I think it's one of the smartest shows on morning TV, but you have two people sitting at the table, husband and wife. You don't rip them a new one when they're there talking about everything that's wrong. You question them a little bit, there they go. Everybody walks off the stage like he had a pleasant thing. The next guy comes on and does a complete 180. You give him a complete pass. Where are you on this? I thought they let Christie off terribly this morning, especially when he went off subject.
In fairness to them, we don't know, meaning the talk show host this morning, we don't know if the producers said to Christie, we want a Republican response to what we just heard. Well, I mean, I don't understand what's the big deal about Christie. So what? He's a nonsense politician taking a free shot at a Democrat. That's all it was. If I'm there, I'm not going to talk about my problems in New Jersey also.
But that's not your job. The job is of the people at the table to say, no,
Richard,
the job
your
is
job is to
you or
attack
anybody else to say,
He's
time
got
out.
a national
Don't tell me
platform.
about me.
Right.
He's a GOP national contender for president, and he has the right to point to liberal cities and say, this is our problem in this
He's
country.
got a right to say,
argument.
time out, time out.
Makes
He's
a
got a
good
right to
argument.
say that there's Martians walking around the streets of New York
I know,
City.
but
No, the
it's not
job
as
of the other
far-fetched.
people is to say, time out. What's going on in the streets of Newark right now? What's going on in the streets of Camden? Let's talk about Trent. You want to go through the major cities and talk about crime in your particular cities? Or this? How about the homeless issue? Why are your job numbers so
Some
far
of
in
those
the
cities
toilet?
are very liberal cities, by the way, and he could say, you know what,
They're
we have
his
mayors.
cities as governor.
We have mayors, but the same with Cuomo is he's not taking ownership to the mental health issue or the homelessness issue or the crime issue.
I
He's
didn't
gotta
see
be
him on the
hands-up.
set today telling everybody else how they need to run their business.
But
This
how
guy
can-
did.
How can you let Governor Christie get away with
Right.
attacking somebody else when his job has been decimated? He has done a horrific job in New Jersey for the last term, if not the first term. And I like Joe and Mika, but should they let him sit out there just like they let the mayor sit out there and make these claims that you can factually point to are not true? Look at what's happening in Newark, Governor. How can you sit there and say you're the governor of this state and yet you're criticizing New York City, which arguably has a much better record than Newark?
Not
How
even
do you
close.
explain that?
Right.
It's not even close.
But those questions have been asked of Governor Christie. He deflects the answers, and he doesn't particularly. I would have enjoyed seeing them try to grill him on and get those answers from him. But those questions have been asked of
You've
Governor
sat
Christie.
here before. You get those people at the table, and the other guy decides to hold up a paper at somebody else.
understand.
Your job is to go after and say, time out.
I
Before you
understand.
throw stones, let's talk about your own house. Right? And by the way, you want to be president of the United States here. Not your job is to be a pundit to talk about New York City. Let's talk about what you do with the homeless. His idea is, you know what? Don't even give them a place to go at night. It'll force them all of a sudden to turn their lives around. That was his answer. To me,
Dominic
sometimes
has
you
a
watch.
better chance of being president of the United States, at least in this cycle.
We would have said that about
than
Donald
Chris
Trump too,
Christie.
and both of you say otherwise. We're going to be talking about the Donald and also Republican issues on this side of this break. Congress, believe it or not, going back to work. And talk of a shutdown, yes, you heard me, this is not like Groundhog Day. Talk of a shutdown making the rounds again, and it's the Republicans saying they're willing to pull the plug. But this guy on the stage is also sucking all the life out of the GOP, the ringleader of the GOP's three-ring circus. The question is, which of the two things, Trump or D.C. politics where Republicans are talking shutdown again, gives the party more headaches? We'll talk about that and more after this.